Welcome back. In today's lecture, we are going to be talking about the second aspect of the homeostatics, which is endocrine system. Now, if you look at this word, endocrine system, it actually means endo means within or inner, crine means secret. System is combination of two or more things that function to perform a single task. Now, when we're not talking about endocrine system, what is the meaning? What is the meaning of that system? What definition can we give it? Now, here is it. The endocrine system is the network of ductless glands. Point number one, ductless glands that secrete hormone, they secrete hormone in minute quantity, very small amount, directly into the bloodstream. There is blood here, into the bloodstream, towards a target organ or tissue that regulates their activity. That is to say, the hormone is produced, which is chemical messenger. It is produced from endocrine gland. There are many of them. We are going to look at them. It is that secretion is produced directly into the bloodstream. That is, there is no connection between the target organ and the gland that secretes that hormone. There is no pipe that links them. The hormone is just produced into the bloodstream like that, and blood is the one that will carry this chemical messenger towards the target organ randomly. Now, there are 50 hormones. This number may vary, but for now, there are 50 hormones in animal, which are the body's chemical messenger. So these hormones, they are the body's chemical messenger. One thing you don't know in life is that there is what we call transformation. Input, process, output. And you know, if a process will be meaningful, the input will never be equal to output. Do you know that everything that happens to you in life is converted to this chemical messenger? When you're exposed to sunlight, the kind of things that happen to you is converted to chemical messenger. When somebody pinches you, when anything is impacted on your signal, when you say something and your body reacts, everything are converted to chemical messengers. So all these messengers, where are they produced from and where are they going to enable your body to react in one way or the other? There are hormones in animals and there are hormones in plants. Let us now look at those ones that are in animal for now, before we look at the ones that are in plants in the next class. Now, they are made up of, we said that they are chemical messengers, and they are made by 12 different endocrine glands. That is to say, we have 12 different endocrine glands that secrete 50 hormones. That is to say, one gland is responsible for the secretion of more than one hormone. While in the plant, in the plant we have this following hormone: abscisic hormone, ab means away, psi means cut. So when we are not talking about abscisic hormone, they are the hormone that is responsible for cutting away. Example, where the fruit fall from plant, this hormone is responsible for that naturally. We have auxin. Oxo means large. We have cytokinin. Cyto means cell, kinin means movement. This one is responsible for growth. This one will be responsible for enlargement. We have ethylene, which is responsible for ripening of the fruit. We have gibberellin hormone. So these are the 5 basic hormones in plants that you need to know their function as a student. Maybe you try to offer A level, or you are UTME, or you are WAEC student. These 5 basic hormones, you must know them and what they are doing in plants. So, although often overshadowed by the brain, nerves, the endocrine system is also involved in information business. We know this. Hormones carry essential messages that are far-reaching There are far-reaching effects. That is to say, their effect is very prominent in every biological organism. So these are the part of the endocrine system, the 12 endocrine system. These are the part of the endocrine organ that are responsible for production of 50 hormones. So let us look at them. Maybe they are up to 12. So let us look at them. Maybe they are up to 12. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6. We have 7, we have 8, we have 9, we have 10, we have 11, so we have 12. So these are the parts that are responsible for production of hormones. So the first one, I want to let you know that in order to remember this thing, please, you must have a specific pattern. You must have a specific pattern of orderliness. You must have a way to arrange your things. Maybe you start to mention from above to below, or you arrange in alphabetical order, but the one that will work best for you is to arrange from above to below. So from pineal to hypothalamus to pituitary to thyroid, and on thyroid we have parathyroid. So as we have thyroid hormone, we have parathyroid hormone. So we have thymus, which is at the top of the heart. All these organs are there, are the parts that is indicated. And if you look at those parts, they are also present in every human being. So now, we have thymus. After thymus, we have adrenal. So after adrenal, we have stomach. After stomach, we have kidney. So after kidney, we have pancreas. After pancreas, we have intestinal, ovary in female, and testis in male organism. So these are the endocrine system one by one and what they are doing. So the first one is hypothalamus. The meaning of hypothalamus is below thalamus. Thalamus means chamber, enclosure. So something that is under the chamber is called hypothalamus. So what is hypothalamus? It's a cluster of nerve cells. It's a cluster of nerve cells. If you want to see what nerve is all about, you can try to gain the brain of an animal or try to extract one from their flesh. You can easily extract a nerve cell from frog. So you can get that one from frog. So it's a cluster of nerve cells that serves as the main link between nerves and hormones. That is to say, the middleman between nerves and hormone is that hypothalamus. We are going to see diagram where it is actually located and what is it like in nature. So it produces releasing factor. This releasing factor, they are called regulatory hormone. Why are they regulatory hormone? Because hypothalamus is the one that will detect maybe the hormone should be released or not. By doing so, they are carrying out regulatory effect. Are you getting me now? And so the hormone that they will produce, they are called regulatory hormone. So once these hormones are produced, are you getting me? They are the one that will detect maybe other hormones should be produced or not. Please, I want you to follow the patterns by which this thing is working. It seems to be a little bit interwoven, but you need to understand what is regulatory, what is the hormone. Regulatory hormone is not the same as the hormone. Regulatory hormone responsible for regulating the hormone, their production, their secretion, and their inhibition. So they travel down to the pituitary glands. So okay, structurally, we have thalamus, we have hypothalamus, then we have pituitary gland. We have pituitary glands like that. So this is pituitary gland. This is pituitary gland, okay? The one in the middle here is the hypothalamus. The one above is the thalamus. So that is the structural arrangement of the three components. But this one is functioning, the thalamus is functioning in the nervous system, why this hypothalamus is functioning in both nervous system and animal system. That's the reason why we say that it's a linkage. Why this one functioning in the hormone system. So we call it the master glands. So, and it's responsible for secretion of many hormones like that. So the next one is the thymus gland, which produce 3 hormones involved in development of white blood cell. You know where thymus is? That is the place, you see, the gland above the heart. We call T cells. When we get to circulatory system, we will look into broad classification of blood system. So we will know which one is which one, so that we will get to know the distinct part of the circulatory system. I will make sure that I do that broad classification, because it's one of the way that will enable you to know what is what and what belongs to where in science. That is very important for you to know those. So which function in immune system? So these are white blood cell elements that function in immune system. We have those ones that prevent you from infection. We have those ones that they prevent you from infection by attacking all foreign agencies in your body. So we have adrenal gland. The adrenal gland consists of 2 parts: adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. You know those. You know that in the previous lecture. So the cortex manufactures steroid hormone that regulates metabolism of glucose, sodium, and potassium. So you will see this is glucose, sodium, and potassium. They are elements. We have essential and non-essential elements. I think these are the essential elements in human body. One of the non-essential elements are the iron, magnesium, manganese, all like that require in minute amount. But those ones that are required in a magnificent amount, in meaningful amount, in significant amount, they are the one that we call. One of them is sodium, potassium, this particular metal, like all other metal like that. They are there for you to know. So, and they maintain fluid balance. So medulla produce adrenaline. So one of the best way to understand the distinct part of the kidney and what they are producing reflect in the name of the hormone that they produce. For example, adrenal cortex produce adrenocorticotropic hormone. Adrenocorticotropic hormone. You will see in that name, adrenal, I mean kidney, adren towards kidney, adrenal, corticoid, from the word cortex, corticoid, tropic. Tropos means location, place, not trough. Trough means nutrient. If H is here, it will become nutrient, but trop means location. So adrenocorticotropics hormone. These are the hormones that are secreted in adrenal cortex. Listen, one of the confusion in this classification of hormone is that some group of hormone has been grouped together and named as a single entity. It's like a group name that we have other name under them. So in this lecture, we are going to look at those groups and what are the elements that is under whatever group that is being named. So we are going to look at those groups and we are going to look at the hormone under them one by one. But you should note that whenever we mention any name about any particular hormone, you should be able to think maybe this particular hormone is a group or is a single entity. Now, we have kidney that secrete erythropoietin. Erythro means red blood, poietin means genesis or production. So red blood production, so that's what we call erythropoietin. The thing is that will show that this particular species is a protein chemical which stimulates production of red blood cell in bone marrow. In most cases in biology, you can actually guess what a particular thing is doing by looking at the meaning of its name. We have intestine that line stomach. We have intestine, the lining of the part of the stomach make hormone that stimulate production or release of enzyme that aid digestion. I believe you still know what we call gastric acid, pepsin, you still know all those hormones that are involved in digestion. Those ones that are produced in your mouth, those ones that are produced in stomach, those ones that are produced in small intestine, like that. So you should be able to remember all these hormones one by one. Although we are still going to look at them, and we are going to analyze how their name are coined. What is the meaning of pepto, cook, pepsin? What is the meaning of gastric acid? That is a gastromys stomach acid from the stomach. We are going to look at those ones that functioning in your mouth, like saliva, the saliva gland that produce some hormones that lubricates the food substances that you want to digest. That is the first entry point of digestion, from your mouth to your stomach, from your stomach to your small intestine. We are going to discuss those later when we get to digestion under this Mr. Nenjade treatment, before we look into evolution and some important biological processes like evolution, genetics, and all other things that we need to look at, like environmental biology. We have ovary. The two ovary, I have told you the meaning of ovary, place of egg. So manufacture the female sex hormone. What are these hormones? Estrogen, arousal hormone, as well as progesterone. Gestation period means the period when gestro means the period when a woman is pregnant. So progesterone, this hormone is for preparing the female for pregnancy, which stimulates egg ripening. That is to say, estrogen stimulates egg ripening. Are you getting me? While progesterone thickening the uterine wall, respectively. So that is what they are doing. One will stimulate the egg ripening, and when the egg is ripe, it will produce this estrogen in order to stimulate the body of the female organism towards sex, so that the egg can be fertilized and become a living organism. But if the female organism is unable to copulate, what will happen is that the egg will shed down and become menstruation in mammal organism like human being. It will become what we call menstruation shed, and which is obvious as blood that is wasted in body of a female organism, in some female organisms. So we have pineal gland. It is located in below part of the brain. So it is pea-sized gland. It's very small. In the middle of the brain, make development melatonin. This melatonin is an hormone that is important in body rhythms such as sleep and wake cycle, which we call circadian cycle. You are going to see those. Also influence some other body biochemical process. So we have pituitary glands. The pituitary gland is called the master gland of the hormone system, and it controls many other endocrine glands. We have thyroid gland. You know that that is near the neck, which control the rate of metabolism, include maintenance of body weight, rate of energy usage, and heart rate, that is heartbeat. Unlike other endocrine gland, it can store its hormone. So thyroid gland, it is the only gland that can store its hormone after production. It will produce it and store it and later use it. So we have heart. Heart also produces some hormone. You don't even know it. So you cannot see it. It produces hormone called peptin, which is atria natriuretic natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic peptide. Atropepsin reduces blood volume and pressure and help to regulate fluid balance. So one of the reasons why you are learning biology is to guess what will be the solution to some health problem. If there is somebody with hypertension, which is high blood pressure, you can research on atropepsin role in blood pressure. If you see that the person is like having a low level of atropepsin, what this actually implies is that you need to get a natural extract of atropepsin in crude form and start administer it to this particular person. It's like a trial and error experiment. It may fix the problem or it may not. Okay, so we have stomach, which make hormone that stimulate production or release of enzyme that aid digestion. Pepsin, renin, gastric acid, so all those enzymes like that. We have pancreas, which is a big cluster of cells known as islet of Langerhans, which produce two hormones, insulin and glucagon. The alpha produce insulin, the beta produce glucagon. We have seen those that respectively lower and rise the blood glucose. What are they saying here is that insulin lower blood glucose, glucagon rise blood glucose. So respectively, that is separately, and as part of the body energy control mechanism. So let us now look at this particular endocrine system from the onset, from the beginning. From the topmost of human part, every organism, we have thalamus and hypothalamus. And we say that thalamus is majorly functioning in the nervous system, where hypothalamus function in both nervous and and as well as endocrine system. We just want us to look at what thalamus is all about. So this is the thalamus in this diagram here. This is hypothalamus here. So this is hypothalamus here, while this is the pituitary gland under it here. We are still going to see a very clear picture about this, but for now, this is the region in the brain where thalamus is located. This is the chamber of hypothalamus, while we have pituitary gland under it. So here, what is thalamus? Regulatory gateway. It is the regulatory gateway, that is, it performs regulatory action. That is the point that serves as entry and that serves as entry point of all the signals, sensory information into the body of living organism. So their brain, the thalamus in their brain is very important. You can try to experiment on the structure of the brain by looking at the brain of a chicken. By looking at the brain of a chicken, or the brain of a frog, or the brain of a rabbit. By looking at the way those things are architected, you will be able to see that, brain is performing some certain function. And the best way to understand the part of the brain that performs certain function is to cut open the skull of a frog, expose the brain, don't kill it, and start touching the part of the brain with some very light pencil object, and to see which part is responsible for which action. At a particular point in time, if you touch one part, the eyes may close. If you touch one part, the mouth may open. If you touch one part, the leg may jerk, the hand may jerk. So you will notice all those parts that are responsible for those coordinate system, those coordinate action. So we have regulatory gateway. Thalamus is the regulatory gateway. Almost all the sensory input goes through the thalamus. Motor output also go via the thalamus to the rest of the body. And I know by this point in time, you understand the nervous architecture that we have taught in the previous class. That's the reason why you're not very important. So we have hypothalamus, which involve in functioning, include homeostatics, emotion, taste, hunger, circadian rhymes. See, this circadian rhyme is the sleep and wake cycle, and control of the autonomic nervous system. So which are, you know, the autonomic has sympathetic and parasympathetic. We have somatic and autonomic. Somatic is for the blood, is for the body part. We have autonomic that is functioning all by itself. It is we are not under the influence of that autonomic, because auto means self-functioning. Okay, auto means self. So we have somatic and autonomic. And other autonomic we have that is sympathetic and parasympathetic. So those ones that act when we have danger. So those ones that are when we are in danger. That's this to say, those ones that act when we are calm, and those ones that act when the cells in our body are aroused. So this is a clear image that shows the location and relative position of thalamus, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland. So this is the thalamus. You can see where it is located. So look at the relationship of thalamus to the pituitary to hypothalamus here. This is the hypothalamus, okay, in this chamber. So this is the pituitary gland. It has two parts, the anterior and posterior. This is the posterior, the behind. This is the anterior, the front. So you may know this by look at the section, or by looking at the direction of this particular part of the brain. Cerebellum. This is our smaller brain, which is cerebellum. This is our major brain. So this is cerebrum. Are you getting me? So look at the direction. So that is cerebrum. So all those six here, they are ventricles. So they are ventricles, and there are other section here. But this is one of the things that we want to show ourselves, which is this is thalamus. This is hypothalamus, and this is pituitary gland. This is pons. You can see we have showed this diagram when we are looking into the nervous system in our previous lecture. This is pons. So we have other, which is this is spinal cord. So we have midbrain here around this place like that. So this is midbrain. Now you can see by looking at the section of the brain, if I divide it into two by this vertical plane, we will have the frontal part, which is what? Anterior. We will have the backward part, which is posterior. So the one that faces the anterior is the anterior part of the pituitary gland. The one that faces the posterior is the posterior part of the pituitary gland. So that is how pituitary gland is divided into anterior and posterior parts. So let us look at the function of thalamus. You know, we are not going to discuss we are going to discuss hypothalamus. We are not going to discuss thalamus, because thalamus is not part of the endocrine system. So we are going to look at hypothalamus. What is it doing? What is it doing? It is a mass of, these are the features of hypothalamus. Number one, it's a mass of nerve cell. It serves as a link between nervous system and endocrine system. Are you getting me? You can see it sits between the thalamus and the pituitary gland. So it serves as a link between nervous system and the endocrine system. It will receive and process signals. Yes, it receives and process signals from other brain regions and pathways, and translate them into chemical hormone. This is one of the most important things that you need to know. Look at it. Signals translate to what? To hormone. How do signals change into hormone? That is to say, there are some things inside the hypothalamus that whenever signal coming, it will enhance the production of that particular part in the hypothalamus, and the signal will go, and the process that interprets that particular signal will come out in form of chemical substances. In fact, the signal may be electrical signal. It may be touch, it may be sight, it may be smell, it may be taste, and all those signals, it may be pain. All those signals, pain is one of the pressure signals. So all those signals are transformed into chemical hormones. How does this happen? It's just like the way your food is transformed into feces that you excrete out, just the same way as the water you take in transform into urine. So the next one is that the chemical messenger, you know that we have said that hormone, what are they? They are chemical messengers. Don't forget. They can ask you, what is the chemical messenger in the body that is, they can add some words. Just note that one of the major chemical messenger in the body of a biological organism is hormone. The last feature is it produces regulatory hormone. This is one of its major functions. It produces regulatory hormone. And when this regulatory hormone is produced, other hormone will be produced. Know that we have basic hormone and we have regulatory hormone. The regulatory hormone, they are the activator hormone or inhibitor hormone. Just know that broadly there are what? Regulatory hormone, and there are other hormones that travel to the pituitary gland. Regulatory hormone travel to where? Pituitary gland. So this is the structure of pituitary gland in a broad view. You can see that it has two lobes. You can see it has two lobes. So the anterior and the posterior lobe. So the anterior and the posterior lobe. So this is infundibulum of the brain. This is hypothalamus. You can see that it's like a channel. This is thalamus. You can see it's like a channel. So as a biologist, once you are seeing the relationship between organs in the body, you will be able to know that once I identify this organ, this should be the next organ that will follow it. This should be the next organ that will follow it. So that is one of your responsibility as a biologist: identification of organ as well as their function. You can see this is the zoom section. So they zoom this section out for you to see the image in broad sense. We have discussed hypothalamus. What follows this is pituitary gland. Let us look at the future of pituitary gland. It has two regions, posterior and anterior. Posterior produce some certain hormone, anterior produce some certain hormone. We are going to look at hormone produced by posterior and anterior. Now, the posterior one produce antidiuretic hormone. Are you getting me? It produces antidiuretic hormone, which is produced from the hypothalamus. So antidiuretic hormone, ADH, is also known as vasopressin. So it regulates the rate of blood pump by regulating the pressure in the blood vessel. So it's also called vasopressin or angiopressin. Angio means blood vessels. So whenever you see ADH or vasopressin or angiopressin, they are referring to the same thing, and increase the absorption of water. So antidiuretic hormone increase the absorption of water. And in some cases, some people believe that this hormone is responsible for bedwetting activities of some children. So I don't know where there are research about those things. You can search antidiuretic hormone and bedwetting online to see what is the relationship between antidiuretic hormone and bedwetting. And this hormone is related to particular thing in a particular chemical in cocoa called theobromine. So that's the reason why the cocoa is called Theobroma cacao by their botanical name, Theobroma cacao. So, but there is a chemical called in the cocoa called theobromine that is present in every tea, because cocoa is one of the major thing that we use in production of tea. So that theobromine enhances the production of antidiuretic hormone, and maybe it increases water reabsorption into the biological body system like that, back into the biological system like that. So, but the takeaway in this place is to notice that antidiuretic hormone enable increase reabsorption of water. And whenever we are talking about antidiuretic hormone, we can also call it as vasopressin or angiopressin. They are the same. So posterior part of the pituitary gland also produce oxytocin. Oxytocin is produced in the hypothalamus and secreted into the bloodstream by the posterior pituitary gland. It affects the uterus contraction and relaxation. Are you getting me? During childbirth. So it is the one that enables pregnant women to push their baby out of the womb. Oxytocin. So if you look at this particular here, posterior produce antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. You can have a code called POW. POW. Antidiuretic and what? Oxytocin. So if you remember this particular acronym, you'll be able to know that posterior region produce two major hormones, which are antidiuretic hormone as well as oxytocin. POW. So that is. Now let us now look at anterior. The anterior produce growth hormone, thyroid hormone, thymus hormone, adrenal hormone, which are what? Glucocorticoid. So that is, it's produced from the cortex. So it regulates sugar level, which is glucose, and mineralocorticoid. So it regulates mineral reabsorption, while like sodium, potassium back into the body system, and it is produced from where? Cortex. So we have adrenaline and noradrenaline, which are produced from where? Medulla. So this is what we call flight and fight hormone. Flight means run away, fight hormone means attack. That is, this one is telling you that there is danger, while this one is telling you that, okay, you can face this danger, it's not that dangerous. Okay? So we also have what we call sex hormone, which are what? Estrogen, progesterone, prolactin, and testosterone. So majorly these three hormones here, they are copious and they are abundant in female organism, while this one is abundant in male organism. So this one actually they determine maybe the child will be male or female. So you can now put everything together as AGTAS, agat. So you can put it as agat. And agat. So you see, we're able to know that this T is thymus and thyroid, okay? Why the S is sex hormone. And many, that's what I'm telling you, that some hormone may be grouped together and named and given a single name. You can see that under sex hormone, we have estrogen, progesterone, prolactin, as well as what? Testosterone. You are still going to see some hormones that are grouped together, like all this hormone called catecholamine hormone. Catecholamine. You will know what they are doing. So that is to say, let me just give you a hint. These two hormones, they are grouped together, and I think they are the one called catecholamine. So there are some hormones that are grouped together and given single name. This is one of your responsibility to understand, to know, so that during your examination you won't do any mistake. So gestation, what is the meaning of gestation? It is a period. So let me show you that. So gestation period, when a female organism carry baby in use, that is the period of pregnancy. That's the reason why we say that progesterone prepare female organism for pregnancy. So let us look at growth hormone first, that is produced from the arterial part. Growth hormone is a peptide hormone. It is secreted in the arterial lobe of the pituitary gland. So we are now looking at that hormone one by one. It stimulates the growth of essentially all tissues in order to grow of the body, including bone. Growth hormone, GH, is synthesized and secreted by anterior pituitary gland. We have seen that, called anterior pituitary cells, anterior pituitary cell called somatotroph. That is to say, there is a particular cell in the anterior pituitary gland that produces growth hormone. This cell is called somatotroph. When you are doing your examination, you must first understand the question before you attempt to pick any option. If you get what the question is saying, then you will be able to choose the correct answer without any confusion. You can see excessive production of the growth hormone results in gigantism because the man is very large, giant, but the normal production produce average man, while the underproduction produce dwarf stiffism in man. So growth hormone is responsible for that. So let us look at the thyroid hormone. The thyroid gland uses iodine from food to make two hormone, which is what triiodothyroxine as well as thyroxine, T3 and T4. Basically T3 and T4. So they are stored in the thyroid hormone, and these thyroid hormone are released as they are needed. You know that thyroid gland, it is the one that is the gland that can store its own hormone and release it when needed. So let us look at this particular part here. This is the thyroid gland. So it produces T3, T4 as well as what? Calcitonin. This calcitonin, it is the one that regulates the uptake of calcium in the human being. We have sodium, we have potassium, we have calcium. Calcium is very important in bone formation. Osteogenesis is very, very important in bone formation, but it's not isolated. It receives information from where? From pituitary gland, and pituitary gland receive information from what? Hypothalamus. This is messaging sequence in the organism. So you can see how many hormones is produced from the thyroid by looking at this particular diagram in this place. T3, T4 as well as calcitonin, triiodothyronine, thyroxine as well as calcitonin. Calcium means calcium, tonin means modulate, increase or decrease. Okay, we have thymus hormone that plays a vital role in lymphatic system, your body defense network. We are still going to talk about this when we'll be looking at circulatory system and endocrine system. Now, the thymus play vital role in both lymphatic system as well as endocrine system. The thymus produce and secrete thymosin, a hormone necessary for T cell development and production. I know all these T cells, they are very important in immune system. Okay, so that is what this diagram show the thymus gland and the dots that surround it. It has lymph dot, it has vein, it has artery, so it has the right lobe and left lobe. So under it you will see some structures. This is the main something, but this one is capsule that cover it. We have interlobular spectrum, that is the space between the interlobes. We have the cortex, which is the outer part. We have the thymic capsula. We have the medulla, which is the inner part. So let me magnify it so that you will see what I'm trying to talk about in the diagram. So this is the diagram. You can see that inside the thymus there is all these things are encapsulator. So the case that encloses it, inside it there are two broad lobe, the right and the left lobe. So they are subdivided into sectional lobe, and the space is called interlobular spectrum. That is separator. So the septum is separator. So it has the outer part, which is cortex, and the inner part, which is medulla. And those dots in within, they are the major thing that secrete that hormone, which is thymic corpuscle. Thymic corpuscle. That is corpuscle of the thymus. Corpse means something like enclosure. So this is adrenal gland, adrenal hormone. There are 5 sets of hormone. That's the reason why I told you that there are some hormone grouped together called a name. Look at it. Let us look at this hormone one by one. We have mineralocorticoid hormone. It's a group of hormone called aldosterone as well as corticosterone. We have glucocorticoid. They are cortisol and cortisone. You are going to see it. We have androgen. I believe you know the meaning of all this. Mineralocorticoids. That is mineralocorticoid, minerals from the cortex. Okay. And we have glucose from the cortex, glucocorticoid. Andro means man. That's where they extract the word android. Gene, man production. So it is the one that will determine maybe a fetus will be male or female. We have estrogen and testosterone. We have catecholamines, which was epinephrine and norepinephrine. That is, both epinephrine and norepinephrine have been grouped together and named catecholamine. We have peptide hormone, which are somatostatin and what substance P. What is hormone? I let you to sit them, not because for you to start cracking your brain on it, but to know what and what is present in what. So this is a section of adrenal glands. So we have adrenal cortex, which is part. We have adrenal medulla. And if you look at the adrenal cortex, they are the corticoid hormone that are produced from the cortex. And we have medulla. You know that in this name, medulla does not reflect. They will have named it catecholmedullami. They will have named it hydromedullogene and medulla peptide hormone. Are you getting me? Medulla peptide hormone. But I don't know the reason why they removed that medulla without letting it reflected in their name. But you will get the right classification by noticing that in the cortex hormone, the name cortic actually reflects. There are 5. Just know that there are 5. You can use alphabet to name it, but you must not name it together. Separate them. Which one is cortex? Which one is what? Medulla. And if you look at the structural diagram of this particular adrenal gland, in some examination, they can draw this diagram and ask you to label it. It is very important that you know. We have zona glomerulosa, the zone of the glomerulus, and we have zona fasciculata. We have zona reticulata. Fasciculum, this fascicle is like a shape structure, but this retilo means net-like structure. But all you need to know is the one that is outer, the one that is middle, and the one that is inner, so that you will know where they are located. Actually, I told you that in biology, everything is actually organized, structured, and ability to write notes on those things depend on your organization of that structure from the outer part to inner part. You remember when we are discussing everything about cell, we talk about the boundary, cytoplasmic region, and nuclear region. So the same pattern should be carried up by you to organize your write-up when it comes to how to write anything about any particular thing you are given. You see, scripture, whatever you want to write, must be organized. And that is the reason why in your English language, they are teaching you the hierarchy of text. And if you know all those things in order they occur, you'll be able to organize your you'll be able to structure your text without any pain. Are you getting me? But the problem is that in most cases, even if a student know how to structure what they want to write down, they don't have enough information to put down. And you know, information does not come from atmosphere. That's the reason why you are a student. You need to study. This life is a study area. The moment you stop studying, it is the moment you start dying. Don't stop study. You must read. And when you are reading, don't just read. Read in order to visualize the application. Read in order to visualize the application. For example, if they say that somebody is under the influence of diabetes, you immediately know that this person has a significant amount of insulin production. So, what part of the body is responsible for secretion of insulin? You will quickly remember your pancreas. You will remember islet of Langerhans. You will remember alpha islet of Langerhans. You will now begin to make research that in the alpha islet of Langerhans, what are the chemical substances that will trigger the production of insulin? Or is there any particular tissue in the islet of Langerhans that should produce this hormone, that this tissue is under degradation or is no longer functioning? You'll be asking yourself, what are the chemicals that will be enable the regeneration of the alpha estate of Langerhans. And you know that if this alpha estate of Langerhans is in normal position, in its normal condition, the production of insulin will trigger into action, then the person will be healed from diabetes. These are questions that you need to ask yourself. Biologists, we are solution provider to biological problem, either disease, pandemic, any infection. And we must have a organized solution that is explainable to human, that this is how we arrive, to tackle this particular problem. So the classification of what you see here is what is put down in this place. So now let us look at aldosterons. Aldosterons. What is the meaning of aldosterons? They are steroid hormones. They are steroid hormone, and at this point in time, I don't want to expose you to much of steroid structure. I don't want to expose you to much of the steroid structure like that. So, but I want you to know that anything that we call steroid, it look like this particular structure here. So this is gonane, we have gonane, we have cholesterol basic structure, but they are chemical. I want you to know that they are chemical. Are you getting me? So whenever we are talking about steroid hormone, they are chemical and they have specific structure. Are you getting me? So this look like the basic structure of those hormones. So we have aldosterons, which is major mineralocorticoid hormone. That is, under mineralocorticoids, we have aldosterons, and it's essential for sodium conservation in the kidney. Calcitonin for calcium, aldosterone for sodium. It increases the reabsorption of sodium in the distal renal tubule. You know the renal tubule with relation to glomerulus in the kidney. So that is the section that performs the filtration of your urine. It increases renal secretion of what? Potassium. That is to say, potassium ion and sodium ion. That is to say, this aldosterone, which is mineralocorticoid. So whenever you hear the word aldosterone, remember mineralocorticoid. So it's one of the major mineralocorticoid hormone. We have aldosterone like that, it has gone. We have corticosterone from the cortex, Abi. So you should know that if aldosterone is for mineralocorticoid, we have corticosterone, which is what? Glucocorticoid. You know that corticoid hormone are what? Mineralocorticoid as well as what? Glucocorticoid. It involves in the regulation of energy, immune reaction, and stress response. Or just know this. Are you getting me? They are complex. They are complex response and chemical response reaction that is studied widely in biochemistry. So if you look to study biochemistry or biochemistry related courses, you will be able to visualize this thing when you get to your higher level course. Corticosterone is converted to aldosterone. Corticosterone is converted to aldosterone. This thing is converted to this by aldosterone synthase. This is an enzyme found only in mitochondria of glomerular cell. Find only in mitochondria of glomerular cell. And you know that glomerulus is inside the kidney. So the glomerulus are cells, and those cells have mitochondria. And inside that mitochondrion, you will see this particular hormone called aldosterone synthase. That is to say, synthase is an hormone that synthesizes, that produce aldosterone. It produces aldosterone from where? From corticosteroid. You see, all these things are complex. Are you getting me? They are complex. But the takeaway that we want you to know is the distinct classification. What is what? Where is what? And what are they doing generally? Corticosterone. You see this one, you will see the name when you get to organic chemistry. Are you getting me? This one. So this one is, you see, is there, corticosterone. So it's the major glucocorticoid. That is, you know, that is it most responsible for regulation of glucose reabsorption and uptake in the system. Or maybe it has glycolysis or glycogenesis. Are you getting me? So when I say glycolysis, you should have known that glyco means sugar, lyso means breakdown. Glycolysis is the process of breaking down of sugar. While glycogenesis, it is the process of production of sugar. Let's go. Yes. Testosterone, one of the sex hormone. You know, testosterone, where is it produced? When we are talking about sex hormone, you should remember sex organ, the testes and the ovary. We have now moved away from the kidney hormone, those one that is produced from cortex and medulla. We are talking about the one that is produced from what? Sex organ now, from testes and ovary. With testosterone, it is primary sex hormone and anabolic steroid. But don't worry about the particular jargon. Are you getting me? Just know their function in puberty as well as determination of sex in living organism. So they determine the gender, maybe to be male or to be female. That is function of testosterone. The moment they mention and move to you, these are your responsibility. When you hear an hormone, remember, maybe it is a group or individual hormone. And remember, where is this hormone produced? And remember, what is the function of this hormone? Estrogen, sex hormone, produced from the ovary. Estrogen supports growth and regulation of female reproductive tissue, everything that has to do with female puberty. It regulates the menstruation cycle. It affects the growth of breast tissue. It assists in keeping healthy libido in women. It helps to women. So this is women. So it helps to maintain healthy level of cholesterol. It keeps the pelvic floor strong and healthy. The function of this thing is so much in female. So abnormal level of production of this thing will result in abnormal women. We have estrogen. Estrogen is sex arousal hormone and is also perform some other function. It's just something that is similar to so this is this is it, estrogen. So we are repeating the same thing. So this is the pure diagram that organize everything together. You can look at this diagram where the gland is located, what they produce, or is a group of hormone or since individual hormone, what is the function of hormone. So these are the glands, so and their function. So these are the glands and their function. So pineal gland may control timing of production and set day and night rhyme, that is circadian cycle, our sleep and wake cycle. So pituitary gland, which is the master gland, regulates growth and flow of balance. We have thyroid gland that control the metabolic rate by what? By producing of thyroxine, regulates calcium level. You know, we have T3 and T4, triiodothyroxine and thyroxine, as well as calcitonin. So we have parathyroid, those ones that are beside the thyroid that regulate calcium level intake. So this one is basically responsible for that calcitonin effect. We have thymus, which control the menstruation of which regulate the maturation of lymphocytes, which are T4 and other white blood cells. We have adrenal glands, which adjust the water balance. Are you getting me? And you know, if your water balance is not adjusted, you may bedwet. You know what I'm talking about. So tissue metabolism. That's the reason why in many cases, well, don't worry, child, but just know that adrenal gland is responsible for maintenance water balance. We have kidney, which control red blood cell production. You remember, erythropoietin assist in calcium regulation. We have pancreas, which regulates blood glucose level. You remember the insulin and glucagon. We have gonad, which is testis and what ovary, which support female and male puberty and sexual reproduction cycle. So this is the diagram that showed the effect action of estrogen in human, how it helped them to develop their body as well as prepare them for puberty and maturity. There are some things that we want to talk about, epinephrine and non-epinephrine, which is flight and fight hormone. You remember where they are produced in the medulla of the adrenal gland. They are produced in the medulla of the adrenal gland, and they have some specific function like that. So let us look at those functions and let us see what they do. In emergencies, our adrenal gland is signal to release epinephrine and norepinephrine together, also known as what? Adrenaline. Are you getting me? As well as what? Noradrenaline. Epinephrine as what? Norepinephrine. These chemicals override our body's usual control of glucose, because it is high time to perform high activity, so we need more energy. And homeostatic for glucose is altered. Adrenaline break down glycogen into glucose, so that more glucose will be produced into the body, and they will be breaking down to produce ATP. Glucose is broken down to produce ATP, which is chemical energy. In this time of stress, to produce what energy we need when we are stressed. So this leads to increase in breathing, heart rate to meet the demand of the ATP production. When you are running, try to visualize what is happening to your body. Once the emergency is over, once the emergency is lower, adrenaline is produced by the adrenal glands at a much lower rate and regulates glucose homeostasis and is resumed. That is to say, normal glucose level conservation will return. So definitely what we're trying to look at here is that epinephrine is for when the danger is there, while norepinephrine is when the danger is not there. Flight and fight hormone. Function of glucagon, function of insulin, function of somatostatin. Are you getting me? So somatostatin, which is our body regulatory protein like that, which is which one of them is produced from the gastric intestinal tract. So you can look at this particular test and see what they are doing. Okay, so this will be the end of everything that has to do with endocrine system. We have seen those glands, we have seen their function, we have seen their hormone, we have seen their function. These are the basic things they will ask you in examination to prove to them that you actually knew this particular thing. And it's a scale that will determine your next level in life. Remember that anything that you want to do, there are scales that will be set there. If you don't pass the scale, there is no way you can move ahead. The major purpose of this center is to show you how those things are organized, so that you'll be able to develop a mnemonics that will enable you to remember things easily and pass that examination without any pain. Thank you for listening. Please do your exercises and make sure that you consult your past question and answer. Especially my ex-students, when it comes to your theoretical aspect, please consult your past question and answer to see how you can organize your own contest. I have told you how you can do that, and it's very simple. But in order to have information to put down, you must absorb information. That's the reason why you need to look at past questions. What are the likely questions they are asking concerning the issue of what? Endocrine system. They will ask you what is endocrine system. They will ask you to write about pituitary glands. They will ask you to write the function of some hormones. Thank you for listening. A, B,